Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. I'm just going to go around the garden and acknowledge just how much of this garden has come from other people and what was already here. That wasn't already here. So starting over here, we've still got some plants to plant. These came from Carol. These are native foxgloves and a lovely primula, lovely delicate plant. Still to be planted, but in this heat, with the weather we're having, they're going to have to stay in their pots in the shade where they're safe. If I plant them out now, chances are they will die. It doesn't matter how much water you put on them, the disturbance will not allow enough uptake of moisture to be in this amount of light. Now, starting right over here, that is a Californian poppy with a bud. Now, there was one up there, and the breeze that comes down this alleyway blew some seeds around, so we've actually got a few now. I'll have to say they were already here. I didn't plant them. The bugle, which is currently in flower, we seem to have two different types, a deep purple one and a lovely lilac-y coloured one. They came from Carol. Now, there's another Californian poppy here, self-seeded. We've got quite a bit of self-seeding that's gone on from plants that came from people, if you see what I mean. Now, up in there, you've got a hellebore, and there's several others up round the back there. They came from Carol. Now, here we've got a foxglove, totally in the wrong place. That's self-seeded. But the original foxgloves came from Carol. And then some extra ones came from Helen. The violets came from Carol. The little cyclamen that should put on a much better show next year, that's a weed. We'll pull that out when we see it. I bought those and planted them. Another foxglove in the wrong place here. The lily of the valley that's grown its leaves now and just coming into flower, that came from Carol. Ferns, there's an assortment of ferns. Some came from Carol, some came from Helen. It's difficult to remember which ones was which, but in amongst them are some that came from Burnham's, in fact in orchid pots, and in the moss in some of the orchid pots. They were, when I used to grow moss in trays, they were grown on, and the moss trays were put outside and survived the winter along with the ferns. So I thought these ferns are hardy enough to go in the garden. So those came from me or from Burnham's originally. Now, coming along here, this stuff, which is a type of campanula, that was already here, but it wasn't really, because it came in the tub that my lovely maple is in, and it self-seeded into the patio cracks, and then Hannah transplanted some of it so that we got some clumps along here to hide the edging. I don't want this edging to show, so that's that. The heart's tongue ferns definitely came from Carol, and I think the shuttlecock ferns came from Carol. The large ones up the back came from Helen. Now, these tall plants here with the seed heads on that are expanding, therefore I assume they are genuine seeds, those are the fritillaries, the snake's head fritillaries, and those came from Carol, and I'm pleased that they made it through their first winter into the second year. Now, coming along here, the wisteria was already here, and those of you who have been with the channel long enough would know if I pointed the camera there used to be a huge conifer tree there. That wisteria went to the top of that conifer tree. Now, the conifer tree actually died, had to get a man in with ropes and a chainsaw, life and limb and all that sort of stuff. There's a video if you want to go and find it of him taking the tree down. The wisteria got cut right back to this, and I now keep it in check. I can't allow it. That's the reason why this piece of the hedge doesn't grow properly, because that's where the wisteria was most established. And when we cut the hedge back for the first time, this bit just didn't regrow. Although eventually it will fill in. I'm allowing shoots to come from all directions. We will get greenery along here eventually. So some of the taller plants near the back, there's phlox and Michaelmas daisies. Now right at the back there is another Californian poppy. That's a good sized one as well, self-seeded. So we've got phlox and Michaelmas daisies. The phlox will be in flower relatively soon, and the Michaelmas daisies are an autumn bloomer. And then what else have we got? You notice things are drooping. I wonder whether underneath this bed is rubble and I haven't got true depth of soil, because it doesn't matter how much I water this, the plants in the sun droop. They perk up again as soon as the sun's off of them, but we've just had continuous hot sunny days for a while now. There's nothing I can do about that, obviously. So anyway, both the phlox and the Michaelmas daisies came from Carroll. You can see the difference. The phlox, I believe, look like that, and the Michaelmas daisies look like that. But that could be the other way around. The fuchsia that's down in there, that's now shooting out, is going to get dug up this weekend when Hannah's down and get put in. That's why I bought that blue pot over there. That's where the fuchsia's going to go. It's too big. When it grows, it grows 4 foot, 5 foot tall and takes up this whole area, and it just swamps everything else. So anyway, in amongst this area is some of these, which are drooping a bit at the moment. These are different types of geraniums. They all came from Carroll. Pelargoniums, I call them geraniums anyway, but garden types. We've got another Californian poppy here with a bud that's going to bloom soon, and there's another one here, and this delicate stuff here is fringe cup. That came from Helen, and it goes a lovely pinky colour. Very, very tiny flowers that are cup shaped, and apparently it's attractive to pollinators, but I haven't seen any on it yet. Maybe one day. And then in amongst here are some Acknowledgements. They came from Carroll. There's one here that's just coming into bloom. This is a pale coloured one. It's incredibly attractive, and it was planted up this end in the shadier area. Well, what I didn't realise is, come the longest days, you know, that what I call the 12 weeks, 6 weeks either side of Midsummer's Day, I didn't realise just how much sun gets into this area. Nonetheless, it was planted in the shady area because I thought the pale colours would look nice in the lower light levels. Anyway, ferns. There's another type of fern coming up here, pushing on. Another one back there in that clump, and that big one there is pushing on. That's a large fern, and the one behind it has just started to grow. The one behind it is a giant fern. That came from Helen. So that's really what's in here. And oh, I've forgotten, there's a Acknowledgement in the corner there that's actually in bloom as well. That's one of what I call the standard colour. Now this gap here, I planted foxgloves in there that were supposed to come back every year. Well, they haven't, they've failed. That's Crocosmia, or nicknamed flaming onions as I call it. That will have lovely bright orangey red blooms on, not too far. That came from Helen. The structure plants, ouch, just been bitten by the bird table. These structural plants, the bamboo and these plants, they were already here, so they're not mine effectively. As is all the ivy, that's not mine. Now, in amongst here that you can't see, because it's, oh, I forgot the London Pride, just there, with blooms just coming on. That also came from Helen. What was I just going to say? Oh, in here are also a lot of snowdrops and quite a lot of daffodils. The daffodils I planted myself. The snowdrops, some were already here, and quite a lot came from Carroll, from deepest West Wales. Now, I'm not quite sure what this is. There was here a nice bush of Californian lilac, and it died because it wasn't hardy enough to get through the cold spell in the not the winter just gone, the one before, so it died. So last year it wasn't there, so it's either come back from underneath the ivy or it's something else, but whatever it is, I didn't plant it. There's a solitary tulip there that's gone over. That's nothing to do with me. Now these leaves here are all snowdrops that were already here, and they grow very, very large, so they're not your standard type of snowdrops, and the leaves last a long time. Coming up through here is another geranium that was already here. Eventually that will fill this area with a mass of flowers. Anything in the tubs, it varies, but the chives came from Carroll. The marjoram I bought and planted. Now this is the guilty party with the campanula. This acer came from my other house in its pot. My son managed to lift it and carry it and get it round the back here via the car. It took up the whole of the back of the car, but we got it here, and I'm well pleased to have kept that going. And in there, in the tub, is the campanula, and as you can see, it's self-seeded here. There's another Californian poppy there with a bud on it. It's self-seeded here, and although it's growing in the cracks of the patio and I shouldn't really be letting it, that will be a mass of blooms soon, and in the shade they will be a lovely deep colour, so that stays. Again, structural plants. This older probably self-seeded itself, along with, there's oak trees come up all over this garden because of that bane of my life. At the moment you can see all these little bits. That's the catkins. Oh, we've got a butterfly. Now that's a point, something for Gail. So far this year, and it's only just the beginning of May, there have been more butterflies in the garden than the whole of last year. So I think we may have a much better this year, especially as some of the summer blooming plants are actually geared up to attracting in and holding the butterflies. So where did we get to? So oak trees come up all over the place. There's one there. I mean, they get cut off or dug up. This is the only one I've allowed to stay. Structural plants again were already here. The camellia was already here, and this beauty was already here. Let's have a closer look. Now, I apologise for that strange noise in the background. There's something not quite right with that child. I don't know what. I'm not an expert on things that can go wrong with youngsters, but his voice, his or her, it's difficult to even tell, and it's quite a few doors down. But he or she plays on a trampoline with a dummy, a life-size dummy that he beats up and throws around and yells and screams at, sometimes for hours on end. And so it's not what I would call your classic behaviour, is it? Nonetheless, if you have a child that's what others would say is not quite normal or not quite right, you've got to live with it and you've got to deal with it. It's difficult to say. I'm lucky mine were, well, I say mine were all normal, but one of them took his own life, my youngest son. So there was something not right there in the mind. I could blame the internet, and I wouldn't be far off. The forget-me-nots came from Carroll. The ground cover plants, most of those I bought in, except for the thyme, that came from Carroll. All of the primroses and the violets came from Carroll. Pyracantha is about to burst into flower. In fact, the first flower is there. And that is a real magnet for the bees and the hoverflies. and it will have lovely bright orange and red berries. All of the new growth that pushes on that will get cut off, probably this weekend, and it will just be kept in check. The laurel was already here. I wish it wasn't, but it's not mine. Underneath is underplanted with a very vigorous geranium that has lovely flowers and some more of the campanula. And every now and again around here you will see a little plant that's different. That's red valerian. That also came from Carol. The buddleia, I had some money sent to me from a viewer that wanted me to buy a buddleia for the butterflies, and the one that I bought with that money is that one there, and that's white. These two I bought myself, and there is a quite deep purple one and the standard pinky coloured one, so there's two different types in there. These are pushing on absolutely incredibly, so thank you, Carol, for the bottle of feed. Which has also been not replaced yet because I'm still using it up. But Carol sent me some feed and said, if you don't feed your tubs, they're not going to grow very well. How right you were. That tree came from the other place. It's some sort of conifer, obviously, a cedar, I believe. It cascades. It's quite a nice plant. That's that. Where do we get to see? Little bits of the red valerian popping up. Again, ground cover plants, I bought those. Now, in that pot is a pot of flowers that I bought that were daisy-like. Don't know what they were called, and I don't know whether they're going to come back. In this pot was some plants of a similar nature, a daisy-like flower, that came from Carol, and I've forgotten what they are. And I don't know whether they're going to come back because the pot's been taken over by the cuckoo flowers, which have self-seeded and started to grow all around the pot, which means I can now move that pot if I want to. There's little seedlings everywhere here. The lilac came from Carol. There was a pair of them. That one didn't make it. This one did. Just down the side here, ground cover me, primroses again from Carol. And then the original red valerian came from Carol and has self-seeded in many places. This I bought, it's a geum, not this is a weed, but it has lovely little yellow flowers on, so they can stay for now. But the geum has lovely bright red flowers on, grows quite tall. I bought that, very, very cheap. And this will be its third year if it does okay. That's the leaves, so at least there is one there. As we get a bonsai, are obviously all mine. The buddleia we've already done. Ground cover, again, I bought that in and planted it. Structure over here, the bamboo was already here. I wish it wasn't because it's giant and it takes some looking after. Again, a camellia, a red one that was already here, obviously along with the wisteria. And this plant here, which we think is orange blossom, but until it blooms we'll never know. And this was deliberately, oh look, I don't know whether I can zoom in on that. That'll be the first this year. I will try, but it's difficult because I can't see what's on the screen. But you can see it moving if nothing else. It's a damselfly, not a dragonfly. I don't know whether I've got it on the screen or not. I just haven't got a clue. See if I can find it. It's there somewhere. Hopefully you saw that. But I do get a lot of those in the garden. I also get dragonflies. So yes, that could be orange blossom, but until it blooms we'll never know. And it was pruned last year to hopefully get blooms this year. We will see. What else? The palm. That was already here. Very spiky. In fact, vicious. I would suggest not the sort of thing you want to put your hand in and then try and bring your hand out, because they're curved to allow you to put your hand in and then not be able to take it out again. They are vicious. So we treat that with extreme caution. The red maple, that was already here. It was, when we got here, the first spring and everything, this whole area was taken over by the bamboo. The bamboo was taller than this tree and had taken over the tree, so I hardly knew that tree was there. Since then, it's got its head in the clouds basically, and it's grown quite a bit. And again, it will grow on each year and eventually become quite a mature tree. Lovely red Acer palmatum. Again, already here. Oh, where do we get to? Nearly done. This bush, whatever it is, was already here, and it's about to come into flower. And again, the bees love it. There's another pyracantha up there, absolutely covered in buds. As soon as that's finished flowering, that will get chopped off. You can't let that get any height to it because it's almost impossible to get at to prune. So the idea is it just covers up part of the fence, as does this. We've still got a gap down through here. The Wisteria's managed to get this far. You know, I might let that grow and take over this bit of the fence. Anyway, these tubs here, the perpetual wallflower I bought, the lavender, I bought 2 types of lavender to plant in that tub. The rosemary I think I brought from the other house. That needs a hell of a prune soon. Again, structural plants were already here, and everything that's planted up through this gap. This is a Himalayan honeysuckle. I looked it up. It has very strange and attractive flowers, but everything that got planted up through here, as this was just a mass of weeds, some of it was bought, some of the ground cover I bought just to put in here to cover up some stuff. There's some bluebells in there that came from Carol, along with some primroses and some violets, again from Carol. This strange silvery covered stuff is red campanula. No, companion, I think it is. Oh, I'm terrible with names, aren't I? But that came from Helen, and looking at those long shoots, it's going to bloom. Yay. Also, we've got some London Pride blooms there and some ferns that could have been from Carol. They could be the ones from Burnham's, I don't know. And at the weekend, I'm going to have a good clear out in this area and get this ivy right back and give the plants in this area some room to breathe and not suffocated by the ivy. So we'll get that done. There's some bugle down there as well. I think the proper name is a juga. Could be the other way around, a guja. Anyway, I call it bugle. That's what most people call it in this country anyway. Again, ground cover plants, and a few forget-me-nots that have managed to seed themselves right over here. They originally came from Carol. So as you can see, a lot of the stuff here has just come from other people as in a form of donations, which is, if you think about what would be here without them, because I can't afford to go buying lots of plants for the garden, there would be very little here of interest if we didn't have the plants from the donations. Okay, there was some stuff already here, but especially that. I'll leave you with that. That's pretty special. And there's a good fragrance on that. Tends to be most noticeable in the morning. Anyway, just a look round and a chat about who donated what and what I bought in myself and what was already here. And as we move towards summer, we're coming out of, you could call this late spring, early summer, one of those two, or both. The garden takes on a whole different appearance, different things coming into their own, and things like the daffodils, long since forgotten, they've died back. Most of the snowdrops, they've all died back. And we've got stuff growing on now that's still yet to bloom. So there we go. and I'll see you next time. And just to put things into context, in through here is my workstation. That's where my laptop and everything is, where I do my work. Workstation, it's all in the name, you know. And that's where I sit. So I'm looking in this direction, so I try and arrange some of my orchid blooms so that I can see them from that seat. I can't obviously see all of them from there, but I've also got gaps through the orchids into the garden. So there is a point. It's not a separate entity. It's all, I think of it as one. So I've got my orchids, many of which are in bloom at the moment. It's going to look bare in here when the cymbidiums have gone over. They'll be outside by then. But yes, it's a whole thing for me. It's all plants. It's all nature. So we look through our orchids, via our orchids, into the garden with all the plants that people have donated, plus the ones that were already here, the structural things, and my bonsai, they've got their own sort of setups within the garden. And over in the corner there is my bench, where I sit with my glass of wine in the sunshine, and underneath the bench, I'm not going to be able to zoom in, who knows, but underneath the bench, that little patch of black and white is Mojo. That's his favourite place when the sun's out like this. If it wasn't so strong and so hot, he would sit on the bench, but when it's like this, he gets under the bench. So it's all one. It's all one. The garden, the orchids, it all blends into one thing. I could give it a name. It's where I live. I'm looking forward to that coming out. Oh, I'm zoomed in. We need to zoom out, otherwise everything's a bit close up. But I am looking forward to the blooms coming out on that. I counted them. There's over 20. There'll be over 20 blooms on that spike. Pretty good stuff. See you next time. Thanks for dropping by.